There's one here 5 times actually, and one of them was disallowed. What do you think is going to happen, Martin?
Well, for starters, it was significant that you saw the Mercedes-Benz safety car going around the track a few seconds ago. So it will definitely not be a pace car start as they had here last year. If you remember, it rained heavily just before the race started, and they had to start it with great caution. They've decided not to do that. It's been a big decision, just been wandering around the front end of the grid, and really there's a lot of tension down there, whether they go for intermediate tyres or whether they go for the full wets. My guess is that the Goodyear intermediate is probably slightly better. They may opt for that. They may take a gamble. I think the 2 guys on the front row will go for the full wets. We understand, of course, that Damon Hill is on the full wet tyre. It's a track where you can lose so much time. There's so many high-speed corners leading into long straights if you're on the wrong tyres. Remember, on the second lap of the race last year, Schumacher on intermediates was 10 seconds faster on that lap than the next fastest man, which was Jacques Villeneuve. So you can quite clearly see how critical that decision is. But at the same time, if you just touch one of those painted white lines or the painted curbs, they're highly glossed, or you lock a brake, you can be in the gravel trap, and you're certainly not going to score any points from there. So it's a really tough decision. It's the hardest decision you ever have to take as a Grand Prix driver sitting on the grid. You get all of the help you can from your engineer, your team boss, but at the end of the day, you're the one that's got to report back from having left the pits to form up on the grid, how much standing water there is, and how good the drainage is, how good your car feels, what's your confidence level, have you decided to stop once or twice with your fuel strategy, where are you on the grid, all of those factors. That's a full wet tyre there on the back of the McLaren. All of those factors you're trying to put in and take your best guess, and that's not got a lot of grooves in, Murray, has it?
But Michael Schumacher, this could make the race. Michael Schumacher starting on Goodyear intermediates as he did last year, and that was the brilliant decision that Schumacher made at the very last moment, which undoubtedly won him the Belgian Grand Prix last year. But the joker in the pack is very much Damon Hill in the yellow Jordan behind Mika Häkkinen on the left-hand side of the grid as you look at it, as they clear the grid now for the first of 45 laps. The first lap, of course, is going to be the formation lap. The race lap is 44, the race distance is 44 laps. David Coulthard there went off this morning, as he has done before in the warm-up period. Drove into the tyre wall, damaged the nose of the McLaren, but that's all history. McLaren leads away with Mika Häkkinen, David Coulthard, there's Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher. The 2 Ferraris went very well in the warm-up this morning in conditions identical to this. Michael Schumacher was 1.3 seconds faster than Mika Häkkinen, who was third. And Eddie Irvine in the second Ferrari was 0.8 of a second slower than Michael Schumacher, but second fastest. And just look at those conditions, driving into a solid wall of spray.
Yes, it's actually not too bad at the moment, but bad enough that you'll want to pull out and try to get some kind of visibility at high speed. Then as you brake down into the corner, the spray fades down and suddenly your whole world lights up. But if there's a lot of standing water and you're following another car closely, sometimes you can't even see your own steering wheel. James, what can you tell us about the tyre choices?
Well, Martin, just before they went off, I noticed that Villeneuve, Alesi and definitely Michael Schumacher of the Goodyear runners are on the intermediate tyres. Eddie Irvine's on the full wets, and so is Damon Hill. And apparently there's a problem with the McLaren team. We're just trying to check out what that is. Something seems to have gone a bit wrong with one of the cars. Something may have come off. I'm just going to check that in a second. But looked to me as though both the McLarens are on the wet Bridgestone tyre. So conservative from some of them, and Schumacher obviously going for it on the intermediates.
Yeah, and Schumacher is the man who can get the job done on intermediates in these weather conditions. That's Giancarlo Fisichella, who was second last year in the Benetton, and he's going to be starting from 7th place on the grid. Now this circuit is absolutely superb. It's got gradient, it's got 200 mile an hour straight, it's got hairpins, it's got everything.
Yes, we're led to believe that Damon has radioed back to his pits to tell them that something fell off one of the McLarens, whether it was a cover or something like that. We'll have to wait and see whether it was anything at all. because as we've already said, it's so difficult to see in these conditions. But at the moment, it's really not too bad. I have to say, I can understand why they're not starting this race under the safety car, because visibility is just about bearable. And there's not a lot of standing water. I went round in an old-timer W196 Mercedes-Benz an hour or so ago, and there is some standing water in small patches, but not enough to get these cars up on top of the water and aquaplaning. So I think from a safety point of view, a normal start is perfectly acceptable.
Now, it's reasonable to expect in these conditions that the two McLarens on the full wet weather cars with the maximum depth grooves to clear water off the track will sprint away, maybe even from Michael Schumacher. Remember, Damon Hill, as far as we know, is on wet weather tyres too. But if Schumacher has got it right, and it does start to dry out a bit, and it is brightening a little, the rain is still falling, the track is very wet, but it is brightening and might clear up a bit, then Schumacher could be quids in.
Well, looking at the circuit conditions, I think anybody who's currently got intermediate bolted onto his car is going to be feeling pretty pleased with himself.
Well, we know the answer for that. He hasn't, Mika Häkkinen.
Look at Häkkinen's eyes, just staring there as he's just watching the road closely and then going over to find his grid slot. I'm expecting Michael Schumacher to have a massive attempt to get Damon Hill dispatched so he can chase after those McLarens as soon as possible.
As ever, watch the lights, 5 on, and then they will all go out. A pause of up to 3 seconds, 44 laps, the Belgian Grand Prix, the race which is crucial to the World Championship. Häkkinen on the left, Coulthard on the right. Yes, yes, it's go! And Coulthard drags. Häkkinen gets away well. Look at Eddie Irvine coming up on the inside. Villeneuve goes up into 2nd position. Schumacher is down into about 6th position. Bad start by the Ferrari. Great start by Eddie Irvine. Villeneuve. Look at Villeneuve. And into the wall. Who was that?
Coulthard in the wall.
David Coulthard into the wall. They'll stop the race.
They'll have to red flag
this. Terrible. Look, oh, this is quite appalling. This is the worst start for a Grand Prix that I have ever seen in the whole of my life.
Total carnage. David Coulthard went off up the hill very early on, and then they just all piled into him in the poor visibility, and they have no ability to stop. The tyres are cold, and everything locks up, and he just slides straight into the accident.
Yeah, the race stopped, of course. Mika Salo, you saw, walk away, and he had a gigantic crash yesterday. Well, it's going to take an enormous time to clear all this lot up. Drivers will be rushing back now to the pits, and that's Jos Verstappen down there. Barrichello, I apologise. Well, running back, there's Mika Salo in the black overalls, and getting his steering wheel off there was Esteban Tuero. That's Takagi in the green helmet, and of course they're running back now to get into their spare cars, which won't necessarily have been set up. And if 2 cars in the same team have been damaged, it's quite conceivable that one of them won't be able to start.
Yes, I think they're trying to...
Eddie Irvine limping, you see, on the left. And the 2 cross drivers, that's Olivier Panis, and there's Barrichello.
Barrichello trying to say, look, I'm okay, I was holding my arm, but there's something red on the back of his overalls, look, I don't know what that might be. I don't think it's blood, but there's something very much red on there. The two cross, both in the action, but Barrichello, they're saying, look, no, I'm fine, I want to get back and get into the spare car. But that is an incredible carnage. I think it started with David Coulthard getting on the power and losing the back end straight into the wall.
That's Coulthard's car.
But that was hit several times, Murray, after he hit the wall. Now watch it now, look, David Coulthard over on the your right of the picture, swings across and just lights up the rear wheels, had a big frontal impact into the wall anyway. And now the real action starts. David goes over to the other side, and then in the middle, somebody's braking. Eddie Irvine gets caught up into Benetton, and they just keep smashing into each other. Look at Salo's car, his second big accident of the weekend, and then after that, total carnage. Nothing they can do. But Rosset just smashing into the back of the lot of them. Big accident.
Damon Hill got through all that lot all right. You see, there is Tuero in the background. The problem is, of course, when you're going at that speed on a slippery track and you've got no traction at all and a lot of power going through, there is absolutely nothing you can do about it.
The two Prost drivers talking to each other as they're climbing up the hill. I'd be inclined to be the first one back to the pits and jump in one of them. I had this situation once at Brabham. You've got to get back and be the first one there. There's only one spare car.
The spare Prost is actually set up for Jarno Trulli, who started higher on the grid. He started from 13th place on the grid. And so Olivier Panis, who was 15th, probably won't have first claim.
And I doubt they'll give Irvine the spare Ferrari in case Michael Schumacher needs it on the next restart. So Irvine could well be out of this race.
As Jos Verstappen drives in, we saw him just missing a bit of debris, but you noticed the right rear tyre looked to me as though he got a puncture. Olivier Panis on the right, Jarno Trulli on the left. They're both perfectly all right, mercifully. But as I say, it's all hands to the pump now for the marshals and all the people who are responsible for operating the cranes and the heavy lifting equipment, who've got to get the cars clear. Johnny Herbert running back to get in the Sauber. Now, the Sauber team have got the car set up for a Lacey, the spare one. Rubens Barrichello and Ricardo Rossi talking the two Brazilians.
Yes, I do think that Barrichello is bleeding. He's cut something, but Eddie apparently not limping quite so heavily. I assume Ferrari have only one spare car here.
Look at it.
And I would be surprised, because we could have a replay of this in the next race, and then Michael Schumacher needs the spare car for the World Championship. So I'd be surprised if they let Irvine have that car.
Well, there's no doubt about the fact that his car won't be restarting. Very, very badly damaged on the left rear. Jackie Stewart talking to Rubens Barrichello, the senior of his two drivers, and Eddie Irvine on the right talks with Jean Todt, the Ferrari team boss. Now, what's Todt saying to Eddie Irvine? Is he saying, get in the spare car, Eddie, or is he saying, sorry, not for you? We've got to hold it for Michael. I'm not sure what the rule is on this. Can they actually stop him from taking part in the race if there's a car available for him?
I doubt there is a rule to cover that eventuality. I think that'll be a team situation.
Well, here we go again.
Damon Hill had a very poor start in third place.
Straight down towards us, you see Mika Hakkinen on in front, Eddie Irvine coming through, and Coulthard is behind Hakkinen. Eddie Irvine dives up to the right, and Villeneuve goes through on the left. Damon Hill and Ralf Schumacher turn round. Now it's at this point that David Coulthard puts the power. Watch the McLaren in the background. There he goes across the track, into the wall, across the path of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Off go the wheels, into the Armco goes David. Damon Hill goes through. There's Eddie Irvine's Ferrari being hit by Mika Salo's arrows, which also hits David Coulthard's McLaren, which had already been virtually written off. Tuero just hit somebody's front wing. There's an arrows in front of us. I should think at least 10 cars have been really badly affected by that crash. It reminds me of the appalling crash at Indianapolis some years ago. But mercifully, no, Eddie looking very quiet and calm in the pits. Does that mean he's not starting, or that he's just getting himself together to restart?
Well, there are other cars at the end of the pit lane. Trulli's managed to get himself in the Prost. We can see Wirtz at the end of the pit lane, ready to rejoin. They should be allowed to go round and reform on the grid, because obviously the race was stopped before the end of the first complete lap. So it's a whole new race, and now we'll have to see. I didn't see any sign of Eddie Irvine preparing to get in the T car. Normally there'd be frantic activity, and well, there's so many. That car's
one of the Benettons.
I thought I saw some flames in the back of it. I thought I saw some flames coming out, just creeping out behind the bodywork there.
The point is that it's happened once. There's no reason, to be honest, why it shouldn't happen again. But James Allen's got some news for it. What is it, James?
Well, I'm down at the scene of the accident now. There are, as I count, 9 cars that have been damaged in this incident. We've got obviously arrows. We've seen a Prost. Both the Tyrrells seem to have been pretty badly smacked up. One of the Stewarts, one of the Benettons is there as well. But it's worth making the point that it seems that none of the drivers are still in the cars. They all seem to have got out and have made their way back to the pits via the medical centre, no doubt. And also we saw some bits flying off some of the cars up towards the debris fence, where there's a great big crowd, of course, on the outside of the straight. And looking across into the grandstands, it looks to me, and I'm very glad to tell you this, but no one in the grandstands appears to have been hit by any flying debris.
Well, Ron Dennis there talking to David Coulthard. I won't say David caused it, but it certainly all happened after he went off the track. First of all to his right and then to his left. But he's zipping up his overalls again, getting ready to get into the spare McLaren.
That was a very big first impact there for David Coulthard. Obviously lit up the rear tyres, went straight across the road and head first into the wall. Just a pure concrete wall there. This is the other side of the track where he ended up. And then another car hit him, Salo's car hit him very, very hard. One guy who did a good job in there was Ralf Schumacher. He managed to stay at the back of it all, and hopefully he escaped completely undamaged.
Well, while we're getting things sorted out here in Belgium and they're clearing the track, it's a good time to take a break. Prix should have started the parade lap again.
Notice that Coulthard's got his visor up slightly. Most of the drivers will do that. He's putting it up a bit more there, but otherwise it just steams up, just fogs up from your own breath. Michael lifting a bit more, and that's really bad news. And you can only really put that down once you're up and running. We think every car on the grid is now on intermediate tyres.
As they set off for the second formation lap. Pekka Häkkinen leads away. Coulthard, Hill, Schumacher, Irvine, Villeneuve, who made such a super start. Behind him, Fisichella, Ralf Schumacher, Frentzen out of La Source. This is where the crash happened. Through to Eau Rouge, the most demanding corner complex in Formula One. And they take that at 180 miles an hour in the drive. Villeneuve went off badly yesterday there. Salo went off badly there yesterday. Climb up Kemmel, which is a very real gradient, I can tell you, having walked up it. 180 miles an hour and more, 200 miles an hour on the approach to Les Combes, the right-left, where the circuit starts to drop downhill after this right-hander at Malmedy. And it drops down to Rivage. There is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, followed by Alesi, followed by Alexander Wurz. There is Johnny Herbert, and that is Jarno Trulli. Remember, only one crossed in this race, and exiting Rivage on the way to Poole.
Well, just to confirm and explain again, this is a completely new start, a completely new race, so it'll be 44 racing laps. This is the formation lap, and they're about halfway round. These tyres tend to run at a slightly lower temperature, so they won't be up to anything like the normal operating temperature of the slicks, but it doesn't matter. They give their best grip in these kind of conditions. I'd say it's slightly marginal for Inters, but the track dries so quickly as the aerodynamics and the tyres of those cars lifts the water into the air, as you can see it. It then gets dispersed, and very quickly you do get a drier line. What you have to be careful of is those curbs, the red and white painted curbs and the white line that delineates the side of the racetrack are incredibly slippery, and that's what they're going to have to stay away from all of the way around the track until there is some kind of dry line, and even then treat them with an awful lot of caution.
Now, when this race restarts, take a tip from me and watch Jacques Villeneuve. He's 6th on the grid. Remember what a super start he made. He's weaving like everybody else to warm up the tyres. Whether or not it actually does it is open to debate.
You could see them as they were swinging the car around. As they turned the wheel, the car doesn't actually grip initially, and it pushes its wheels down the road with some lock on, but the car carries on going straight. There's very, very little grip out of those front tyres at the moment, and that's why they'll have to brake super early for that La Source first corner.
That yellow line on the grid, incidentally, is to enable the driver to line his front wheels up perfectly. There is a sensor in the tarmac for every car which indicates whether they make a jump start, and you've only got to move a few centimetres for that sensor to operate.
Yes, you can see Häkkinen looking out of the side of the car, because you can't see down because the monocoque blocks your view. You look out of the side of the car to try to see that extended yellow line. Visor still up there for Coulthard. He'll be hoping he doesn't get an action replay of what happened first time around.
All right, well, fingers crossed, everybody. We don't want another bad start like that one. 18 cars on the grid. There's Damon Hill. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. Go, 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 go! Hakkinen leads away again. Irvine again comes up the left. Damon Hill has made an excellent start and leads! And leads! Damon Hill gets ahead of everybody at last source. Schumacher going round the outside.
Oh, it's Hakkinen spun.
Spinning Hakkinen. Schumacher hit Hakkinen. And Herbert has hit Hakkinen. Now, I can't believe they're not going to have to stop the race again.
They've got 3 minutes to get that out of the way, but there's no spare car for Hakkinen. He'll have to take, even if they do stop it, he'll have to take, he's saying he's okay, but he'll have to take Coulthard's car back in that respect. But at the moment, no sign of the red flags as Michael Schumacher comes up the inside of Eddie Irvine.
And takes second place. So now the battle is on between Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher, but is the race going to be stopped? There is no indication of it on our monitors, and we normally get a very quick indication. Mika Hakkinen walks away. That's the World Championship leader. He's not going to... And out goes Coulthard. Coulthard is off, and one of the Benettons. This is terrible for the McLaren team. David Coulthard's truck has kept the engine running, and Schumacher is up with Damon Hill. The Ferraris are second and third, and Damon leads a race for the first time since Hungary last year in the Arrows.
What's absolutely clear to me is that the Bridgestone intermediates are not working at all well. There you see Coulthard and one of the Benettons, both on the Bridgestone Inters, off the road. But at the moment, both Hill and Schumacher's car appearing to work well, Michael looking the faster.
And remember the way these two are old rivals.
Safety car's on the track.
Safety car is on the track. They're going to have to line up behind the safety car. That is a good decision, in my opinion. There is the safety car. There will be yellow flags round the course to warn the drivers to slow down. Mika Hakkinen disconsolately moves, and ironically, it was his World Championship rival Michael Schumacher who hit him and took him out of the race. And now David Coulthard is back again on the track. David Coulthard has rejoined the race.
Recovered from that gravel trap. We saw him reversing gently out. Safety car's good news for him. It's a bit like Austria. He's going to end up at the back of the field. But Hakkinen gets away very, very well, it appears. But Hill made a super start. Coulthard a poor start. And Hill goes down the outside, squeezes Hakkinen and brakes later. Hakkinen very, very cautious there. Now Mika feels a bit under pressure, very close to that Ferrari, hits the throttle a little bit too hard, pirouettes, only to be clouted by the Sauber of Johnny Herbert. And they'll both be out of the race, I think, with that one, but for sure Hakkinen is out of the race because the safety car means they'll just clear it away and restart. Here we go again.
Now watch Schumacher here and watch the way he contacts Hakkinen. There's going to be a lot of discussion about this. Some people are going to accuse him.
I don't think they contact Murray. I don't actually
sure
think
they did.
Let's have a look.
It's coming out of La Source. You see there. Oh, come on. Well, now they're removing. Oh, well done, well done, well done. They've got the car out of the way. Thank heavens the race isn't being stopped. Here's Wurz and Coulthard going off. We know that Coulthard has rejoined. I don't know whether Alexander Wurz did, because are they going to stay with us and see whether he goes into the wall? No, he's out of the race. Alexander Wurz is out of the race. Well, that means we're down to 17 before the end of the first lap. 18 out of 22 started. The safety car is out. Now, we've been through this situation before. The situation is that the safety car has got a row of lights on its roof. You see them flashing. When those lights are turned out, the safety car comes into the pit lane and the race restarts. And the order: Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher, Eddie Irvine, John Lacey is in fourth position. Fifth is Jacques Villeneuve, followed by Heinz-Harald Frentzen. So the Williams are fifth and sixth. Ralf Schumacher is seventh, and Fisichella is in eighth position. Alexander Wurz stopped. Hakkinen is out of the race. Johnny Herbert has stopped as well. And as I've already told you, we've got 4 non-starters. I've said this so many times in the past. Anything can happen in Formula One, and it usually does, and it's happened again. Safety car. Look at that yellow Jordan. I'm just trying to remember. So how many times, if ever, a Jordan has been right up at the front of a race?
Didn't Fisichella lead at Hockenheim?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. That was
and
the
I have a feeling there was somewhere else that.
But it's a rare occurrence. But the difference this time is that it's driven by a world champion, the world champion of 1994, Damon Hill, who has been longing and yearning and looking for an opportunity like this, to lead in a car that's worthy of his talent, of which he has so much. Well, the Jordan team have been working hard on that car, joined by Mike Gascoigne, and they got it right.
Look at Lacey up there in 4th place, Murray. He made a storming getaway, didn't he?
Yeah, he does. He loves the wet, Jean Lacey. And the Sauber, which has got a power disadvantage, won't suffer as much as it would have done if it had been dry. So, into the bus stop at the end of the lap.
I'm just looking at a replay on a diamond screen outside the commentary box.
And the race is on, the race is on, there's the safety car. Damon Hill leads on lap 3 out of 44. Can Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari catch his old rival and get past him? Not if Damon Hill's got anything to do with it. The revived, much improved Jordan has also got a much improved Mugen Honda Japanese engine in it, and it's giving a lot of extra power. Damon's the man to use it there. Ferrari are 2nd and 3rd, and David Coulthard is the fastest man on the track in 15th place. He's catching Esteban Tuero, who is ahead of him. It won't take him long to get past. There's Villeneuve in 5th position. Look for Heinz-Harald Frentzen. It's not Frentzen, it's Lacey. So Villeneuve has got ahead of Jean Lacey. We didn't see it happen. It means that Jacques Villeneuve in the, again, much improved Williams with the Mechachrome engine is now in 4th position. Race order: Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher, there they are. Eddie Irvine, there he is. Jacques Villeneuve is 4th, Lacey is 5th, Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in 6th position, and Schumacher now knows if he can just keep going he'll get 6 points if he stays where he is. He knows that Mika Häkkinen has got no points because he will have seen him go off, and Michael Schumacher, as ever, is getting down to it. But it looked to me, we didn't actually see the replay to get the final judgment on whether Schumacher hit Häkkinen or not. I think he did.
Well, they touched on the way in, that's absolutely for sure, but it seemed to me that Häkkinen just got on the gas pedal a bit too early and spun off because of engine. Now no, this is the restart actually. This is a replay of something. Is it the restart or is something going to happen? Oh no, that's Villeneuve taking a Lacey look for a 4th place off of the start.
And look at that white patch of chalk or powder, whatever it is. Lacey tries very hard to regain that 4th position. And over the line again comes Damon Hill into lap 4 out of 44. 1/11th distance of the Belgian Grand Prix as Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Villeneuve go through.
Yeah, so Lacey now back down to 6th place with Ralf Schumacher giving him a hard time in the other Jordan for good measure. So Lacey, having made a good start, doesn't appear to have the speed to cope with it. But Damon Hill appears to have enough speed to live with Michael Schumacher. Hill fastest on that last lap by 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, 2:09 compared with the lap record here of 1:51. So they're lapping 18.18 seconds off dry fastest possible speed last year, when of course they were on full slick tyres. Eddie Jordan, he'll be keeping his fingers crossed. He's never won in all the Grand Prix that Jordan have been in. When they started in 1991, they have never won a Grand Prix. The nearest they've got to it was Rubens Barrichello, 2nd here at the Belgian Grand Prix, starting from pole position. He got pole position when the circuit was drying out. And now Damon Hill still leads. Michael Schumacher still 2nd. Jordan leads Ferrari. Ferrari leads Ferrari. Look for the 2nd Ferrari of Eddie Irvine in the spare car, I remind you.
Yes, the top 7 cars all on the Goodyear, so they're definitely working better than a Bridgestone. I think that's why you've seen the McLarens and the Benettons flying off the road. Louise is with Johnny Herbert.
Johnny, what can you tell us about that shunt?
Well, I'm glad I've got my little one in my arms because it actually gives me a little bit of satisfaction after that. But the first one, nice start in the middle, first corner, no problems. And obviously I think it was David that started it. And you could see everybody, all the spray, but it was very vague. And I got through but then there was someone's wheel bouncing down the track and it hit the back left and ripped off broke the suspension. So that was the first one. And then the second one again, start was okay, sort of went round the outside, out of trouble. And then as I turned, I saw Mika spinning, but then he did one of those where you keep your foot in, and he was spinning the car round. And as I came, first of all, I thought he was going to stay left, but then he sort of spun the car around, so I had already decided to go on the inside. But as I was trying to go on the inside and he was spinning the car, we actually, the rear of the cars clashed. So that was it.
I'm glad to see you're all right, Johnny.
Okay, thanks.
Well, Damon Hill doing a sterling job up front, fastest again on that last lap, but only just from Michael Schumacher. And looking out of the window, Murray, as ever at Spa, it's raining, it's beginning to rain quite hard again.
So if that is the case and it keeps up, they'll have to come in and change to full rain tyres. Well, this is quite literally a turn up for the book. There's all sorts of possibilities in this race, and it's wonderful to see 1994 world champion Damon Hill leading again, albeit in a different car from the one in which he was so successful in his early career in Formula One, the Williams Renault world champion 94. And it's Michael Schumacher. You remember what a battle they had in 1994, which was resolved at Adelaide when they drove into...
Oh, Shuey running very wide there. Michael, no problem, he's collected it back up. Shows you how hard he's working. But do you remember the big head-to-head these two had in Suzuka in the rain? And Damon stood up in the seat and absolutely put one over Michael Schumacher. And Schumi is on the ragged edge yet again. That rain is beginning to fall heavier.
And Damon is looking smoother and steadier than Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari. That Michael Schumacher is trying very hard indeed. And that Ferrari is looking very twitchy indeed when it's under stress and full loading. There's an example there. It went on to full lock almost as he came round the right-hander at the bus stop. Damon Hill goes through to complete his fifth lap. He's now into lap 6. He's faster again. Damon Hill is making a series of fastest laps in an effort to break away from Michael Schumacher. Look at the gap between Eddie Irvine and the battle for fourth, and here it is. The battle for fourth is led by Fredson, then Lacey. Villeneuve has slipped back, and that's Schumacher Ralph.
I think Villeneuve just spun coming out of the bus stop. Maybe we'll see a replay, but I believe Villeneuve got on the power too early coming out of the bus stop and did a quick 360. This is Michael Schumacher getting well out of shape just on the way into Stavelot. Well held, Michael.
And Eddie Irvine now, there's a big gap. This is it, because here is Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Williams 4th, Lacey in the Sauber 5th, Villeneuve we think has spun in the Williams 6th, Ralf Schumacher behind him is in 7th place, just behind him is Giancarlo Fisichella, 3 seconds down the road, 9th is Deniz, 10th is Jos Verstappen, 15 of the 18 starters are still running, Wurz, Hakkinen and Herbert out of the race. Barrichello, Panis, Salo and Rossi did not even restart.
Well, just to let you know how well Damon Hill is driving and how hard Michael Schumacher's trying, they're a full 3 seconds a lap faster than the rest of the field. So Shuey looking a bit quicker on this lap though, as he's closed the gap slightly.
Well, there were people who were very inadvisingly saying that Damon at his age, and he is 37 years old, was now settling and cruising and collecting rather than racing. Everybody in the know knew that that was absolutely wrong, and here is the living visual proof of the fact that he's got the talent if he can get the machinery. He didn't have it at Arrows in the first real year last year. He didn't have it with Jordan at the beginning of the year, but he's got it now. Look!
Schumacher's half a second faster at least on this lap. Michael now finding some grip after those early skiers, and he also looks stronger under braking than Damon too. So now the gap, he ended up a full 7/10 faster than Damon.
Damon ran wide there.
Yes, no problem. Damon will get on the power early. It all evens out, but Michael clearly now the faster of the two.
Now these two had a terrific scrap when Schumacher was in the Benetton and Damon Hill was in the Williams and at Les Combes, which they're going to be approaching soon. They literally had a wheel banging, and it was at this right to left that they're coming up to now. Michael Schumacher tried to dive through on the inside, as he was trying to do there, but no way of getting through. They banged wheels and Schumacher got through, and Damon understandably was very angry indeed. So we're now on lap 7 out of 44 of the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa. Michael Schumacher, the fastest man on the track at the moment. He's gone round in 2 minutes 5.4 seconds. And James Allen has got news about Häkkinen and Schumacher. What happened, James?
Well, Murray, you're sure that they touched. Martin's not so sure. I'm not so sure either, but I just grabbed a quick word with Mika Häkkinen. He wasn't willing to do an interview for us because he's so incredibly upset by what happened, but I did catch a word with him. I said, did Schumacher touch you? And he said, for sure he touched me. I went down to Ferrari, I checked with them. They say, we don't think so. We're pretty sure he didn't. And Michael certainly hasn't said anything on the radio, so watch this space.
I'm still absolutely convinced they did touch, Murray. You were right on the way in, but I don't think that's why.
Look, there's something happening here on a replay.
I think that's the earlier replay of Villeneuve getting it wrong, coming out of the bus stop. We talked about that a little while ago, and he did well to keep that all within the barriers, actually. But then I do believe that Häkkinen got on the power, got a little bit flustered, got on the power too early on the way out and spun by himself.
Well, we'll find out later. It's academic now, sadly, from Mika Häkkinen's point of view. And Damon Hill just twitches the Jordan a bit on the approach to the bus stop. You don't need me to tell you how close Schumacher is to him in terms of time. It's distance that matters, and it's mighty, mighty close. With Schumacher, well, I've said this many times before, catching is one thing, getting past is another. They're in two very closely matched cars, and they're drivers of equal talent. One of them has got to make a mistake.
Yes, and I think it's going to be Damon locking a brake somewhere. His car's not slowing down as well as Michael Schumacher's. And I think sooner or later Schumi's going to get close enough and he'll be able to outbrake the Jordan. On that last lap again, Schumi was 4 or 5 tenths of a second faster. But now he's actually got to do some passing.
And apparently Fisichella has gone off the track somewhere or other, which makes sense. Yes, he was, because he's now down in 8th position.
Well, all of the Bridgestone runners are struggling. They're a full 6 seconds a lap slower. The fastest Bridgestone runners doing a 2:12, Hill and Schumacher 2:05. So Coulthard back in 14th place, also on a 2:12, but clearly those inter-Bridgestones just not working. And I think that's another strong reason why Häkkinen spun off on the first lap, as did Coulthard and Wirtz.
Well, Bridgestone dominated the first 6 races of the year. Goodyear have said they're pulling out of Formula One at the end of this season. Everybody hopes they will not. And if success is what they're looking for, they're certainly getting it, because Michael Schumacher he's had 4 wins recently, and Goodyear certainly look as though they're going to win this race at the moment.
Well, let's just think of the psychology here. Damon Hill desperately wants to win this race. He hasn't won a race since 1996, unlucky at Arrows in Hungary last year. Michael Schumacher needs the World Championship points. I think Michael will be thinking, I'm not going to take a wild move to get past this man. I've got a long afternoon ahead of me. I'll take him as and when I can. But here's a good chance. He got a much better run out of Blanchimont, up the inside into the bus stop. He has track position, squeezes Damon over a little bit. Michael Schumacher, a textbook overtaking opportunity as he came out of that 6th gear Blanchimont corner. Much, much better.
And that means to say that if Michael Schumacher can stay where he is, and yes, I know there's a long, long way to go, because this is only lap 9. Here's a replay. Watch Damon Hill. He tries to protect his position, but Michael Schumacher, you just got to get the smell of an oily rag and when there's a chance of getting through, and he'll be there. You see, he has forced Damon Hill wide. Michael Schumacher is able to take the right line into the bus stop. Damon Hill has to defer or go off the track and damage his car. He does that. Michael Schumacher leads in Belgium, and if he can stay there to the end of the race, he will take the lead in the World Championship. A most incredible situation. He's 7 points behind Mika Häkkinen at the present moment. Mika Häkkinen is out of the race, will score no points. If Michael Schumacher can win, long way to go, he'll get 10 points and he would be in front of Häkkinen by 3 points. with just the Italian Grand Prix, the Luxembourg Grand Prix and the Japanese Grand Prix to come.
Michael getting well up on the curbs there, taking risks. I don't think he needs to take at the moment, but that's not the man's style. That was a great overtaking manoeuvre on Damon. No risk there, because if you do lock a wheel, at least you can go down the pit lane. But he quite clearly put his car in a position where he had the track position. Damon couldn't turn in. Michael now happily on his way, thinking of pit strategy now. 44-lap race. If they're two-stopping, they'll come in around lap 15. Normally in the rain, you put as much fuel in as you can so that you can be sure to have a wider window if the track starts to dry out. At the moment, it's certainly not drying out. It's raining even harder, and I think they'll two-stop.
And look at the way Damon Hill is dropping back. David Coulthard is in 14th place now. Remember, he went off the track with Alexander Wurz, who was retired. He rejoined after reversing through the gravel trap. He was lucky to keep the engine running. Never mind, get the traction to get out. And he's now past Esteban Tuero, and he's up into 14th position. And out goes another one. It's the steward, the sole steward of Jos Verstappen, because remember, Rubens Barrichello failed to restart the Belgian Grand Prix because he had damaged his elbow. So both stewards out of the race. A twitchy-looking Michael Schumacher as he went out of La Source. He kept the Ferrari under control. He's now 5 seconds ahead of Damon Hill. It looks as though we're going to see another one of these incredible, masterful Michael Schumacher wet weather drives.
Yes, Coulthard's coming into the pits. I suspect he's going to give up on those intermediates. He's running around at the back of the field, can't make any impression on anybody, and I think they'll bring him in and put on a set of wets.
Now, I'll tell you this, Eddie Irvine is catching Damon Hill as well. Damon Hill's not fighting for first now, he's going to be fighting for second, and off goes Schumacher!
No, it's Irvine, it's Irvine.
Apologies, trying too hard, and is just missed by Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Off goes the nose wing of the Ferrari, and he'll be coming in for a new nose. He's taking the barge board off as well. Into the pit lane comes David Coulthard, and Michael Schumacher meantime is indeed striding away from Damon Hill.
Yes, I think Ferrari will now also take the chance to get some wets on that car of Schumacher's, because it really is raining. They'll probably hope to get to a pit stop window before they do that, but it's risky times. It's really difficult now. It's such a long lap here. It's so long before you come, well over 2 minutes before you come around again, that the track can change in that time. Every corner is a new adventure on every lap.
So Michael Schumacher back in, and maligned by me, and I apologise to him. Michael Schumacher comes into the bus stop for the 10th time. 44 laps, he's got a large number still to do, no sign of him coming in. He's like Senna, he can keep going on intermediate tyres in wet conditions far longer than most people can.
Yes, Irvine's had that problem on the way into Les Combes and ended up running over his own nose as he went over the bumpy bit of grass. I think he outbraked himself at the end of the straight and just went straight across the grass. Normally it doesn't take your nose off there, I'm surprised actually, but then they'll have a job getting that out from underneath actually.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of muscle power applied to it, mechanics catching hold of the suspension on either side. And now into the pit lane comes Eddie Irvine, and we're going to see how they cope with it. James Allen is right down there.
Yeah, they're definitely going to put full wets on this car, Murray. Ross Braun, the technical director, is standing by to assess any further damage. Now just watch you guys at home how quickly they can change a nose on a Formula 1 car. They can do an engine in an hour, but look how quickly they can do a nose. Now, of course, the decision to put this car onto wets reflects on Michael Schumacher's situation. He's out there going hell for leather on the intermediate tyres. We reckon he's got a reasonable amount of fuel on board, and I agree with Martin. I think he's hoping to do this race in 2 stops.
Well, it looks as though Eddie Irvine is going to rejoin in 11th position. Takagi has just gone through and he was in 10th place. Can he scramble out before Nakano? Yes, he has done so. So on full wet tyres, which are undoubtedly the thing to have at the moment if you're not Michael Schumacher, there he is. Eddie Irvine rejoins in 11th place, and Michael Schumacher now leads Damon Hill by 7.1 seconds. Of course, the pressure is off Damon from Eddie Irvine. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is third now in the Williams.
Another car off there. It's one of the Tyrrells. I think it was Rosset.
The Tyrrell, Takagi.
Yes,
the only one left.
You're right, Murray. And let's have a look. What did he do? He loses it coming out of La Source hairpin and straight into the wall.
And this is the penalty, of course, of being inexperienced in wet conditions on intermediate tyres, which Takagi is. It's the first time he's driven at Spa, and it's probably the first time he's driven in conditions like this on tyres like those. So both Tyrrell sadly out of the race. Eddie Irvine rejoins. There he is on the track. Race order on lap 12 at the moment. Damon Hill is 9 seconds behind Schumacher, 15 ahead of Frentzen. Frentzen is 7 seconds ahead of Alesi. Alesi is 4 seconds ahead of Villeneuve in 5th place. Ralf Schumacher is 6th, 2 seconds behind Villeneuve and catching him. Eddie Irvine, who was 7th, is now down to 11th position. So Fisichella is 7th. Deniz is 8th. Trulli has moved up into 9th position now that Takagi is out, and 10th is Irvine.
Jordan Mechanics
into
ready.
The pits comes Schumacher, Ralf Schumacher from 6th, who is going on to soft, wet tyres, we are told.
Well, that means there really is a lot of water and not a lot of grip out there if they're going to put the soft ones on, although they were working well in the warm-up this morning, we do know. So we have to assume that Damon Hill will maybe do the same, but Hill is running 2 seconds faster than anybody else except Michael Schumacher, who's 2 seconds faster than Hill. So Michael's still finding enough grip out there somewhere, Murray.
Yeah, interestingly that when Michael Schumacher went off in 1994 in the Benetton, he actually won the race, but because he had damaged the wooden plank which is underneath every car, they judged that the car was too close to the ground, which gave him a benefit, and he was excluded. But he's had a fantastic record here in Belgium. This is where he made his debut in the Jordan team, and he was so good he started 7th, burnt his clutch out at the start, and hello, what's going on here? It is Jacques Villeneuve diving inside Esteban Tuero's Minardi, who just avoids Villeneuve, who runs a bit wide, and Tuero, who is 14th, has now been lapped by the top 5 drivers. This is the race leader in Belgium. It is Michael Schumacher coming through to complete his 12th lap. He was 9 seconds ahead of Damon Hill.
Yes, he'll be squeezing that throttle pedal like there's an egg underneath it. He doesn't want to brake because if you jump on it too quickly, we've already seen several drivers just spin off just in an apparent straight line, and you really do have to squeeze the power on. But he's lapping very well at 2:06.5 again on that lap. You can see him bouncing across the curbs in the bus stop, but he looks totally under control, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's actually finished first here 5 times. As I say, he was excluded in 94. But his first win here was in Belgium after his debut here in 91. He won in 92, and then he won 3 successive years, 95, 96, 97 last year in appalling conditions. And Damon Hill is holding his 2nd place in the Jordan, looking good, looking steady, looking smooth. Jordan car, Mugen engine, Goodyear tyres, and the same applies as far as the rubber boots are concerned for Michael Schumacher's Ferrari. It's looking a good race for Goodyear. They're 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th at the moment. Fisichella is the top Bridgestone runner in 6th place, ahead of Ralf Schumacher, who is 7th on Goodyear.
Yes, when Michael Schumacher won here in 92, I was his teammate. I passed him for 3rd place when he ran wide. In the bus stop, he had a look at my rear tyres, decided they didn't look that healthy as when we slowed down for the slowest part of the bus stop, took a gamble on coming in for slicks, and whizzed past the 2 Williams and won the race because he pitted first of the 4 of us, and that's the way the man thinks.
Well, the man to watch at the moment, if we could have a look at him, is John Alesi, who is in 4th position behind Frentzen. He's just under 7 seconds behind the Williams Mechachrome, and Alesi in the Sauber Petronas is catching Frentzen. Not very quickly, but he is catching him, and Alesi in the wet is a fearsome driver, very, very capable. There is Frentzen, 3rd place. Coming up to the bus stop, this is the approach to Blanchimont. In the dry, 185 miles an hour. In the wet,
Probably not much slower, maybe just 5 miles an hour slower. The extra drag of lifting that water up into the air. Watching Ralph going through the early part of the bus stop. Frentzen taking plenty of curb in his current 3rd position. Driving well.
Yeah, now these cars weigh 600 kilograms all up, what's that, half the weight of a Mini. Their engines produce some 750 horsepower at 6,000 RPM. And in conditions like this, if they are not supermen, to stay on the track as much as they are doing, as quickly as they are going, I am very much mistaken. As Heinz-Harald Frentzen climbs out of Eau Rouge, up Kemmel again. This is his 14th lap. There's a comparison between Michael Schumacher fastest and Frentzen, and you can see that Schumacher is lapping some 2 to 3 seconds a lap faster than his German countryman, whose future is in doubt. Frentzen, that is. There is Alesi, fourth. Now, Alesi has got the cap down another tenth of a second, from 6.7 seconds to 6.6 seconds. He's the most experienced driver in Formula One, is Jean Alesi. This is he's coming up to 150 Grand Prix. This is his 148th. Having driven for years for Ferrari, won his only Grand Prix for Ferrari in Canada in most emotional circumstances. Car number 27, which was the great Gilles Villeneuve's number. And then Alesi left Ferrari, went to Benetton, 2 years. Now he's with Sauber. Seems to be very happy there and going well. Now we're on lap 14, so there's still 30 laps to go. It's roughly 1/3 distance. We haven't had any fuel stops yet. Yes, we've had Ralf Schumacher in. We've had Eddie Irvine in for a new nose cone. Esteban Tuero has been in, and so has David Coulthard, but we haven't had any of the expected tyre and fuel stops. And Frentzen has been in the gravel. Now, Frentzen was in 3rd place. He should be that now. Where is Alesi? That is Alesi. I can't tell you whether he's gone ahead of Frentzen, but I suspect he has.
I think he has, because Frentzen spent 10 seconds extra in the mid-section than Alesi, and he was 6.6 behind as Verstappen makes his way back to the pit. So Frentzen, we believe, has dropped back. Yes, Alesi takes 3rd. We're expecting Frentzen in the pits for possibly a set of wets. That should be presumably Villeneuve coming into view there. No, Frentzen has decided to carry on. So Frentzen not choosing to come in the pits on that lap. He's got a little bit further to go before the fuel window. And if they're going to two-stop, they've got to be doing it soon.
If they're going to two-stop, they should be coming in round about lap 15. Laps 15 and 30 in this 45-lap race. Incidentally, Jean Alesi was running second in Belgium for a long, long time in the Sauber last year, until he had a mechanical problem, which let Giancarlo Fisichella through into 2nd position. But here is the recovered Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and the gap, which was 6.7 seconds between Alesi and Frentzen, is still 6.7 seconds, but the other way round. Alesi is 3rd and Frentzen is 4th.
Michael Schumacher 4 seconds faster. Look, he's locked the front wheel again. That's the corner he went off on the last lap. Got away with it this time, but Michael Schumacher's 4 seconds faster than Hill, 2nd place man on the last lap. Now leads by 16 seconds.
And Alesi is catching Hill, not quickly, but at the rate of 0.6 of a second a lap. The gap between them is 22 seconds. Damon Hill is safe at the moment, but if Alesi keeps on going, he's going to be very, very much closer. Schumacher leads, Hill is 2nd, Alesi is 3rd. Frentzen, there he is in 4th position. Jacques Villeneuve is in 5th position, 4.5 seconds behind his teammate. Fisichella is 6th and catching Villeneuve.
Okay, Michael Schumacher now down in the 2-minute 13s. It really is raining. It's time for a set of wets. I really think it's time for a set of wets for that leading Ferrari, because if he's losing 4 or 5 seconds a lap, that means you're getting some standing water. You can see for yourself how much greyer it is, how much more spray it is. This is a tricky time.
Yeah, well, if he was on a two-stop strategy, and I think he was, he can come in any time now without losing anything at all. He came in on lap 14 last year. He made 2 stops, and interestingly enough, last year he came in and changed from intermediates to slicks, because at this time in the race last year things were beginning to dry out. Quite the reverse to now. And Michael Schumacher is leading Damon Hill by 18 seconds now. And there are the 2 Williams. Frentzen in front of Villeneuve. They're 4th and 5th. and Villeneuve is catching Heinz-Harald Frentzen at the rate of 1.3 seconds a lap. The gap is 3 seconds, so he's going to be right with his teammate Frentzen in just a couple of laps, maybe even less. And we're expecting Michael Schumacher into the pits. I can't see the pit lane from here, but no doubt we will get a shot of the mechanics coming out. They're not allowed to come out until the lap that the driver is actually coming in. And we're expecting Damon Hill in at the same time.
I think it's the right time. It's the right time to get some wets on. It's too risky now. It can sometimes be out of the driver's hands there. Just catch the water slightly wrong. And the thing will be in the wall. It's just not worth the risk for Michael Schumacher with both McLarens out of play.
Well, you can see that Villeneuve there is making a much better fist of the wet conditions than Heinz-Harald Frentzen, his teammate, is. I said it would be a couple of laps. It's more like half a lap at the moment, because Villeneuve is right up with Frentzen, and the question is Frentzen going to move over and let him through? There's absolutely no reason why he should. Here is Michael Schumacher, race leader, coming in for the first tyre change of a top man. James Allen is there.
Yes, here comes the race leader. Martin, you know, I think Ross Brawn must have been listening to you. It was about 10 seconds after you said, right, it's time for Shuey to come in. Ross looked at the timing screens and gave a big jerk with his thumb. Bring him in, he said, bring him in. And very calm work by the Ferrari crew. Perilous waters ahead for many other people. That's 8.3 seconds. Bit of a slow takeoff, and he was lucky also that Damon and Fisichella weren't in the pits at the same time, but he's back out again. Meanwhile, Damon coming in as well.
Yep, Damon Hill into now. It was 8.3 seconds for Michael Schumacher. Is Damon going to lose any time, and is Alesi going to catch him? I don't think so, because Alesi was 23 seconds behind him.
They've got a spanner core in the front wing. It looked as if they were hoping to adjust. Maybe they did adjust the front wing on Damon Hill's car. Whatever, the tool got stuck in the nut or the bolt head, and it didn't work out at all. Now, I don't actually think they changed anything.
But as Fisichella comes into the pits and Alesi in. Now Alesi is third, Fisichella is sixth, and Damon Hill has rejoined, obviously, with Alesi in the pits, still in second position as Heinz-Harald Frentzen comes in. Well, they're all going to be coming in now. They all started on intermediates. The time is right for wets, as Martin forecast, and they're all confirming. Fisichella having a very long stop. There's obviously something amiss other than tyres and wheels changing.
Yes, they did manage to get 3 clicks of downforce apparently on the front wing of Damon Hill. They increased the wing angle. Obviously, he's got not as much front wing as he wants, so he's put a bit on. The problem that we came in late on was they couldn't get the Allen key out of the bolt, and that's a red car in the wall there. Is it a Williams?
It's Villeneuve. It's Villeneuve. Well, if this is a replay, it's Villeneuve going off. Indeed it is. Jacques Villeneuve, who's just come in for new tyres and wheels. Now, is that him getting over the fence in the background? I think it is.
Yeah, see, he hadn't been in, had he? Villeneuve was effectively leading the race because he hadn't been in. But that's what happens. He touched the brakes on the inters, too much standing water. We saw Coulthard do the same thing at the British Grand Prix, and you go straight to the scene of the accident.
Why are they all pointing up the track, I wonder? It looks to me as though there's something else up there as well that we can't see. They're not looking at Villeneuve at all. This reminds me about the famous Fangio incident at Monaco, when Fangio saw the people looking the wrong way and used... Oh, there's Villeneuve. He's getting out of the car. He just sat there for a while to get himself together.
Difficult moment when you go off in a place like that, hitting water. The chances are somebody else can do the same thing. I used to get out of there rather than sit and chat away on the radio. But Michael Schumacher absolutely flying. Now his car's on full wets. I mean, he's just not backing off at all. He is absolutely going for it. His outlap is 3 seconds faster in the first section than any of his competitors. Absolutely incredible. Michael has got so much confidence.
Yes, the worthy double world champion is showing us again, as he has shown us so many times in the past, that he is indeed the best driver of the day, and even more so than it's wet. Remember the number of races, the Spanish Grand Prix, the Monaco Grand Prix, this race last year, this race this year, where Michael Schumacher in wet weather conditions has quite literally been in a scintillating, dominating class of his very own. He's on lap 18 out of 44 now, Hans-Harald Frentzen at the bus stop, getting it wrong over that serrated saw-tooth curbing, gives the car a very nasty knock indeed and shakes the driver up. But he's still running, of course. He's in 5th position. With Villeneuve out of the race, there are now 12 of the competitors left.
2 Jordans in the top 3. Ralf Schumacher's moving up now to 3rd place. Villeneuve going off. Frentzen in the gravel trap we saw. I don't know what happened on Alesi's pit stop, but Ralf Schumacher's now moved up into 3rd place. So Michael Schumacher, Damon Hill, Ralf Schumacher, Alesi, Frentzen, and Eddie Irvine, amazingly, still in the top 6.
Well, Jacques Villeneuve is certainly going to remember, there he is, Spa 1998, that absolutely enormous 190-mile-an-hour crash at Eau Rouge, which completely destroyed the Williams and left him unscathed on Friday, and now off again today. Not to finish in the Belgian Grand Prix. No points for him. The Williams was getting better, it is better.
Michael locking the rear wheels on the downshift into La Source, corrected it nicely. Not a big drama, but that'll catch his attention.
Now he's 22 seconds, Michael Schumacher, ahead of Damon Hill that you are looking at. Hill is 22 seconds ahead of his teammate, Ralf Schumacher. And Damon Hill going extremely well. So Eddie Jordan hardly believing his luck. Damon Hill led, and now Damon Hill on lap 19 out of 44 in Belgium is second only to Michael Schumacher. The gap 24 seconds. Ralf Schumacher in the second. Jordan is in 3rd place. Both Jordans in the points on the podium at the present moment, but there are still 2/3 of the race to go, nearly. Jean Alesi has fought back into 4th position with the disappearance of Jacques Villeneuve, who's spun off and is perfectly okay. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is 5th. Eddie Irvine is 6th, notwithstanding the fact that he's had to come in for a new nose cone, having tripped up over his own front wing. 7th is Pedro Diniz in the sole arrows, with Salo not restarting. Fisichella is 8th, Trulli is 9th, Nakano is 10th. David Coulthard, who went off in a collision with Alexander Wurz and rejoined last, is up into 11th position, and Jacques Villeneuve is out of the race. There are just 11 runners left. Plus, I'm sorry, I missed Esteban Tuero, which makes it 12. Retirements then. Jacques Villeneuve, Tora Takagi, Jos Verstappen, Alexander Wurz, Mika Hakkinen after that very close running together with Michael Schumacher after the restart. Johnny Herbert went out on the first restart lap. Barrichello, Panis, Salo and Rosic did not restart after their cars were so badly damaged in that multiple collision after the first start on the rundown from La Source to Eau Rouge, during which nobody was badly hurt. Rubens Barrichello banged his elbow, Eddie Irvine banged his knee. As far as I know, nothing worse than that. As you look at Ralf Schumacher in 3rd position, and off goes the Minardi now of Esteban Tuero. That brings us down to 11 runners. His teammate Shinji Nakano is still in the race. Well, I'm beginning to wonder how many people are going to finish the Belgian Grand Prix.
It's clearly going to be less than 10, and we're not even half distance. Incredible. It's that kind of day.
Ralf Schumacher. Now, Jordan have been putting improvements for the car in the pipeline under the leadership of Gary Anderson, the technical director. The team has been joined by Mike Gascoigne from the Tyrrell team to work with Gary Anderson on the technical side, and it looks like things are really working. We're going for a break. Okay, Martin, we can see how things are. Schumacher leading Damon Hill there by 27 seconds now in a class of his own. Ralf Schumacher in 3rd place. The conditions look appalling to me, but what are they like from a driver's point of view? And in particular, why is Michael Schumacher such a master in the wet?
Well, because he's very smart in how he sets his car up, and he thinks long and hard about all of the possibilities, probably more than anybody else. And then he has this amazing confidence and reflex where he can attack the racetrack. He seems to have a sixth sense of where the grip is, where the standing water is, and off he goes. And the other drivers have to be slightly more cautious. Damon Hill driving a very, very sensible race. Difficult thing here for Eddie Jordan because Ralph's homing in on Damon at about a second a lap. The two Jordans running second and third. And they really need to be having a word with those two and saying, don't push each other too hard. You know, we've got a great chance of a double podium here. And if Ralph starts, there's enough time left for him to catch Damon at that rate. But I'm sure Damon realises he can't beat Michael Schumacher on sheer pace, so he's just got to get that car to the end. But so Hill and Ralph Schumacher got their own particular battle. But here, for example, La Source, it's so easy to brake a little bit too late, lock the front tyre. There's Ralph coming into the bus stop, same deal there. And then as you just pull, you gingerly pull for the downshift on the steering column. And if the engine revs are not quite right, then it just locks the rear wheels and you spin. And so often the engine is stalled, and from having a brilliant run in second place, you're sitting there like a chump looking the wrong way. And that is ridiculously easy to do, Murray.
Yeah, what an incredible turnaround for the Jordan team. Halfway through the season, there is Ralph Schumacher. Halfway through the season, 8 races, they hadn't scored a single point. Then Ralph Schumacher was 6th at the British Grand Prix. He was 5th the following race in Austria. Damon Hill then had 2 terrific races, Germany and Hungary, 4th in both of them. So they've had World Championship points in the last 4 races, as opposed to none in the first 8 races. And if they stay as they are now, and everybody will be keeping their fingers crossed for this enormously popular team, they could have both drivers on the podium, 2nd and 3rd. An amazing reversal of fortune.
And add to that, Murray, that we're all expecting Ralph Schumacher's leaving that team, of course. I think there's even a court case going on about that at the moment. And that's a tricky political situation, isn't it?
Yeah,
so I'm sure it would appear Damon is staying with the team. There's Denitz in for presumably a new set of wets. We understand Frentzen is going to come in for a new nose. We haven't seen him off the road, and in fact we haven't seen him in the pits yet either. But so interesting political situation there for Jordan as Hill leads Schumacher 2nd and 3rd.
On lap 23, so we're into the second half of the Belgian Grand Prix, and what a dramatic impact-laden, literally, race it's been.
Yeah, these are the one-stoppers, of course, Murray. So Denitz would be in, as is truly in for their one scheduled stop in the race.
Lap 23, race order, Schumacher leading, Damon Hill by 30.30 seconds, a tour de force par excellence. Ralph Schumacher 3rd, catching very slowly Damon Hill, but he's 20 seconds behind him. Alesi 4th, Frentzen 5th, Irvine 6th.
And it's tricky when the track gets to this stage now. It's all shiny and glistening across the top as Eddie Irvine homes in on Frentzen. I think you can see a piece of Frentzen's wing missing, actually, if I'm not mistaken. No, I was mistaken. Just the camera angle there. But the track is covered in water, and it's impossible to tell when you're doing 170, 180 miles an hour just how deep is that water, and often you get a nasty surprise when you get there. That's the kind of visibility you've sometimes got sitting in the car itself.
This is the battle for 5th position. There is the man who is 6th, Eddie Irvine. He has clawed his way back after having stopped for a new nose cone, and he's now right up with almost Heinz Harald Frentzen as they go through into their 23rd lap. Michael Schumacher diving through with Denise. Are they touching each other? My goodness, that was close. Schumacher backs off and keeps the distance between them. That could have taken Schumacher out of the race if they'd been 6 inches closer.
Well, that's the mentality of the man, but I'm a little bit surprised. He got a half-a-minute lead. That was a risk he did not need to take.
Yep, 30 seconds ahead of Damon Hill. The fastest lap we've had in these dreadful conditions. Michael Schumacher on lap 9, fairly early in the race. 2 minutes, 3.7 seconds. And that is 12 seconds off Alain Prost's all-time 1993 Williams lap record. It's an astounding lap time on in these conditions. And with aerodynamics now, which are not nearly as efficient as they were when Alain Prost, who now, of course, is running his own team, was driving in 1993 for Williams. And Damon Hill is still keeping that Jordan in second place, and the battle for 5th and 6th. There it is. Eddie Irvine, Ferrari. Ahead of him, Heinz Harold Frentzen in the sole remaining Williams. There are 11 out of the 18 cars that started the second time. 11 out of the 22 cars that started the first time. And Eddie Irvine can obviously get by, but will he be able to?
Well, he's clearly much faster. He's 2 or 3 tenths up on each section, but now he's got the problem of visibility, so he'll just have to follow in the wheel tracks and wait for a slow corner when the spray just fades away, and suddenly sometimes you even get off the brakes and back onto the throttle again because you're further away from the corner than you thought. Irvine there having to lift off, he can't actually see where he's going at that point. More often than not, you're using peripheral vision. Are they thinking about pulling him in? They're talking away on the Ferrari pit wall there. More often you're using peripheral vision and you're listening to the car in front.
Well, now this isn't a tyre superiority situation, Martin. They're both on Goodyear tyres. It's a car and driver superiority situation. And perhaps a better setup of the Ferrari driven by Irvine than the Williams driven by Frentzen. Although Eddie Irvine says, and I don't doubt his word, he says, I'm as good as anybody out there except Michael Schumacher, and nobody is as good as him.
Yes, remember also that Irvine's got Schumacher's spare car, so he's making a pretty good job of driving that. But now it's going to be tough to get past this Williams.
And we've got some news from James Allen.
Just adding to what you guys were saying actually there about the superiority of Michael and where it comes from. Is it the tyres, is it the driver? Martin said earlier in the race, look how good Michael is on the brakes, and standing here just on the entry to La Source corner, you can see that he's much later on the brakes into La Source than Damon Hill. He's making up about a second every time. Just on this early part of the lap, as Martin pointed out, he was 3 seconds faster on his outlap after his pit stop. And it's those things, it's the braking for the bus stop, it's the braking for La Source, and the way he's going through with the car. It's absolutely fantastic, and that's a big part of his advantage today.
And look at Irvine, he won't get through on the inside there, but he's certainly going to be bothering Frentzen. That's if Frentzen even knows he's there. As soon as you see all that spray, you see absolutely nothing in your mirrors. Irvine pulling out of the wheel tracks to get some kind of visibility. This is going to be interesting to watch. I think Irvine, if he gets a sniff, he will definitely have the ability to outbrake Frentzen into one of those bigger braking areas, into the bus stop or into La Source. But meanwhile, I think he's going to have to be just a little bit patient.
Gigantic encouragement for Ferrari. Eddie Irvine has just re-signed, of course, for the 1999 season. He's been on the podium 4 times already this season.
We can see Jean Todt walking down the pit lane talking to the McLaren team, and that's why, because Michael Schumacher is trying to lap David Coulthard. Coulthard's struggling around his McLaren, just not happy at all in these conditions for whatever reason. And we've seen the Ferrari team boss walking down the pit lane.
And let us not forget that David Coulthard in these appalling conditions. Oh God! Michael Schumacher hits David Coulthard and is out of the Belgian Grand Prix. Maybe he should have been a bit more circumspect about trying to pass him, but he is out. And Mika Häkkinen, in the nicest possible way, will be delighted. The World Championship situation is now the same as it was when the Belgian Grand Prix started, and Damon Hill is in the lead.
Yes, I think they probably just radioed to David to say, let him through, he's behind you, let him through. David lifts off, and Schumi doesn't realise and runs into the back of him. The 2 Jordans are first and second. Ralf Schumacher just 10 seconds. Look, David's pulled over to one side, lifted off, and Michael clearly couldn't see.
Well, what an incredible development. Michael Schumacher, with yet another Belgian Grand Prix, is driving his 3-wheel Ferrari home. Shows you how stiffly set up these cars are, and a bitterly disappointed Jean Todt leaves the pit wall.
And they're cruising back slowly back to the pits. That's a very dangerous situation. No way they'll fix that car, even if it will run on 3 wheels. Never in a month of Sundays they'll get any suspension on it. Look, Coulthard appears to lift. And look at the spray. No wonder Michael can't see anything. He just can't see and just runs into the back of David Coulthard.
A terrible reminder of Didier Pironi in the Ferrari, running into the back of Alain Prost in Hockenheim in practice, and effectively finishing his career as Michael Schumacher drives out of the Belgian Grand Prix, and David Coulthard comes into the pits, probably also to retire. But isn't it amazing that they can drive those cars on 3 wheels? But Michael Schumacher won't be the least bit interested in that technical fact. Angrily throws his steering wheel out of the cockpit with every good reason. You can understand his fury, because he's now effectively lost the chance of taking the World Championship lead. Now, what is he up to? He's storming down the pit lane, presumably to go. Look at him. He's saying, "I'm going to the stewards." James, can you enlighten? He's going to Coulthard. He's going to have it out with David Coulthard. This is a bit like Nigel Mansell and Ayrton Senna at that Belgian Grand Prix when Nigel got him by the throat. James, what's the news?
Unbelievable altercation, as you say. Jean touched there. He's dragged his driver away. Michael is absolutely furious. I just saw the car as I came in. Absolutely destroyed the front suspension. He's walking past me now. He's ready. He's close to tears, guys. He really is. He cannot believe this race has gone away from him. Absolutely furious, Michael Schumacher. And I just wonder, whether Coulthard, really saw that he was there. He definitely backed off. It's a very strange incident, that.
Well, Michael Schumacher will undoubtedly be thinking the worst. It's the way people do think in these circumstances. His reaction will probably be, that was David Coulthard getting in my way to stop me taking the lead in the World Championship. I'm utterly sure that is not the case. David is not that sort of a chap. But anyway, whatever. Michael Schumacher is out. David Coulthard is out. Damon Hill, there he is in, leading the Belgian Grand Prix for the first time in a Jordan. He's leading the race for the first time since he led the Hungarian Grand Prix in an Arrows, apart from his earlier lead here, of course. And Ralf Schumacher is in 2nd position. Jean Alesi, who is now in 3rd place, is no challenge to either of them. He is 9 seconds behind them, and lapping considerably slower. Damon Hill's last lap was... Hello, this is a replay. Just look at the anger. Michael Schumacher is normally a very laid-back, calm chap, but his dander is well and truly up now as he storms into the McLaren garage, and David Coulthard denies any responsibility, and out goes Eddie Irvine. 2 Ferraris out now, and the Ferrari mechanics can hardly believe their eyes. This is a fantastic Belgian Grand Prix.
There's 2 on corner, I believe. Irvine, obviously, I think he's going to run a little bit wide, touch that curb, look, and round it goes. Nothing he can do about that, and that's a very, very big gravel trap. He's a long way into it, and I think he's probably stalled the engine as well. There is a service road over there, look, but the back wheels have stopped, and the engine's dead. Irvine out of the race.
Now, you have to think of every possibility in the situation that Martin and I are in. They can stop this race at 3/4 distance, which is 33 laps, and give everybody full World Championship points. We're on lap 27 now. I see no reason why they should stop it, actually, because a lot of people are going off. But if it gets any worse, that may well happen. That is Mike Gascoigne in the middle, the new man on the technical side at Jordan. He's made a big contribution to the increased speed of these cars, which is in no way to decry what Gary Anderson did to get them to the position they were in the first place. And they're 1st and 2nd. Alesi is now gaining. He's speeded up. And we're expecting Ralf Schumacher to come into the pits, as we are expecting Damon Hill, of course. Damon Hill came in on lap 16, and in that case I would expect him to come in round about lap 31 for his 2nd stop, and that's 5 laps from now. And there's still a heck of a long way to go. Let me just run through the people who are still running in the race. On lap 27 out of 44, Damon Hill leads Ralf Schumacher, both Jordans by 14 seconds. Alesi is 3rd, 9 seconds back. Princeton is 4th.
Damon's missed the chicane. Damon going across the grass at the bus stop, no harm done. But at the moment, Ralph's a couple of seconds a lap faster. But you can see there, look, the inside wheel, look, and he had to go across the grass. If you go through the pit lane, you've got to go through very slowly. You lose a lot of extra time. I don't believe there'll be any damage done there. A bit of grass in the radiators, but engine temperature's not the problem at the moment.
Yeah, funnily enough, Damon did actually get caught. There's
second place man Ralph in for, I assume, what is a scheduled pit stop.
Yeah, I would think
on a 2-stop strategy.
Rather earlier than I expected him. I was running through the order. I got to Princeton, who was 4th. Fisichella is 5th. And Pedro Diniz in the Arrows, a lap down, is in 6th place, and I do hope he stays there, because it would be some reward for the awful luck that Arrows have had, with Mika Salo going off at enormous velocity yesterday. They brought the test car here overnight. The mechanics, the Arrows mechanics, went to bed at 11 o'clock last night, and they started work again at 2:30 this morning. Oh, Fisichella!
That's a big accident from Fisichella. I think that's coming out of the bus stop. He's obviously lost it and hit the end of the barrier. That's a very nasty accident. That'll bring out the safety car.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll bring out the... there's poor visibility there. I think he's hit the end of the pit wall.
Well, I do start to wonder whether they might not...
And we've just seen a Minardi come past without a rear wing, and this is the same thing that happened to Schumacher and Coulthard. Oh, that is a nasty accident. And now remember, Wirtz was like this in Monaco in a Benetton. Nothing he can do, no way. That's a horrible accident.
Yeah,
he brings his head over, and that just looks like a torpedo, doesn't it?
Well,
yeah, safety car's outlook.
You do have to wonder whether the race will go its full distance as you see that enormous crash replayed. Let's see who's in the race now, because I suspect Nakano will be retiring as well. Hill is in the race, Schumacher is in the race, so is Alesi and Frentzen. Fisichella, who was 5th, is out, there's his car. Diniz is still running, that's 5 of them. So Giano Trulli, that's 6th. Nakano, I think, is out. And that's all that's left. All the rest have retired. Schumacher, Irvine, Coulthard, Tuero, Villeneuve, Takagi, Verstappen, Wurtz, Hakkinen, Herbert, Barrichello, Panis, Salo, Rossi. Is the Belgian Grand Prix going to go to full distance? Here's Damon for his 2nd stop.
And Hill pitting under the safety car, so hopefully he can get back out again and keep track position. Overrunning his slot a bit there, that won't help his pit stop. It's very important that Damon gets track position, doesn't get stuck in traffic. Normally you should pit the instant the safety car comes out, and because Ralph now may just have track position on him, we'll have to see how it all shakes out. Alesi, 3rd place man, also coming in for his good. Damon has managed to get out of the pits ahead of Ralph, keeps track position. Alesi there for his scheduled stop, and of course you lose less time by taking that pit stop under safety car situation. There's Damon at the head of the queue. That's worked out beautifully for him. I'm sure that's not just pot luck. The Jordan team would have worked that one out, and but if you pit under the safety car, you rejoin the track and immediately establish yourself, and it gives you effectively a free pit stop.
Gigantically astute move. Are you confused? So are a lot of people. Here is what we think is the situation. Lap 29, safety car out. Fisichella's car completely ruined. There it is. Damon Hill leads Sean Alesi now. Schumacher down to 3rd place. That's Ralph Schumacher. Frentzen is 4th. Diniz is 5th. Jarno Trulli is in 6th position. And everybody else out of the 18 starters is out. I'm now trying to remember the minimum number of people, the least number of people who finished a Grand Prix. I'm sure some anoraks will phone in and tell me. I think it was 5 at Monaco one year. But anyway, let's return to the Belgian Grand Prix. Monaco and Fisichella walking in. Well, we've still got, you see, we're on lap 29 now, and it's a 44-lap race. So we've got 15 laps still to go. Hill leads Schumacher behind the safety car. What's the news, James Allen?
Well, I'm just wondering what's going to happen next, Murray. It's an absolutely frantic day, isn't it? Fisichella just walked past me, breathing very heavily. He looked a bit winded, actually, and pretty disconsolate. They just put wet tyres onto Damon Hill, the race leader, when he went out. But ironically, it's stopped raining now. I don't know if that's going to turn out to be a factor, but definitely it's brightening up quite a lot. I understand you're watching a replay of Fisichella at the moment. But interestingly, I've just been down to McLaren. I said, look, what is it all about? And they said, we told David Coulthard to get over to the right-hand side of the track. The defining moment for me of the 1998 championship, Coulthard went over to the right-hand side, and they just believe he slowed right down, get out of the way, and Schumacher hit him. No blame for David Coulthard, they say, and they're just trying to repair his car at the moment. They're actually going to try and get him back out again, but that remains to be seen.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, at the beginning of the race, no blame on Michael Schumacher if indeed he hit Hakkinen, which is a contentious subject at the moment. No blame on David Coulthard, and no blame to Nakano either, for that matter. It's so difficult to see. It's very, very, very dangerous.
I just hope we can get through this afternoon with 22 intact Grand Prix drivers, because when you watch, if we see another replay of that incident, you watch the front wheel that made contact with the Minardi of Fisichella's car, it could so easily have hit him on the head with all the suspension parts, which sadly is what happened to Ayrton Senna, I believe, back in '94. That was so lucky. And you can see them bringing in the digger there to lift the car out of the way. And now we're going to see a replay, I believe, of Coulthard. This is at Rivage. There's the left-hander before they head down the straight. We saw earlier Coulthard had already been looking in his mirror to see where Schumacher was. I think look, he's got his hand in his ear saying, let me through, let me through. We saw the Ferrari team boss Jean Todt talking to McLaren, and just after that Coulthard appeared to pull over and lift off. So we'll have to wait and see what the radio instructions were, but yeah, they weren't showing us the accident again. They showed us Schumacher with his hand in the air saying, let me through, let me through.
Well, without wishing to say I told you so, remember, I said anything could happen in Formula One, and it usually does. Not much hasn't happened in this race. We're on lap 30 now, which is 2/3 distance out of lap 44.
This is down the hill, look, here comes Schumacher. Coulthard's quite clearly lifting off for whatever reason. Schuey doesn't realise it. Schuey starts to pull out, look. No, actually he's heading back in again, and then bang, off goes the wheel.
And out goes Michael Schumacher. World Championship situation unchanged. They will go to the Italian Grand Prix at Monza in 2 weeks' time, still with 7 points between Häkkinen and Schumacher, with Häkkinen in the lead. And a furious Michael Schumacher trying to get at Coulthard to clobber him one, I should think.
If when he's all cooled down he still thinks David Coulthard would do that on purpose, I'll be very disappointed in Michael. There's no Grand Prix driver I know that would attempt anything like that.
Yeah.
But this is the politics I was talking about earlier on. You've now got the two Jordans line astern. The man in second place, we believe, is leaving the team with a little bit of acrimony. Is he going to pay any attention to team tactics? Because if those two, if they race each other, they could both end up off the road.
Oh,
Coulthard's car is fixed, and we believe he's going to restart. The main reason being there are only 6 runners, and they could score a World Championship point.
Yeah,
there's no Ferraris in the points. No Ferrari's going to score points today. Häkkinen's not going to score a point. They might just pick up a point in the remaining 15 laps.
He's going to have a job.
15 laps with David. Yeah, but he's going to rely on somebody falling off.
He's 6 laps down.
Yeah, but hang on. I mean, how many cars are going on per lap at the moment?
Well, we've only got 6 left, and in reverse order, Jarno Trulli is now 6th in the Prost. Deniz is now 5th in the Arrows on a possible 2 World Championship points. Frentzen is 4th, Alesi is 3rd, Ralf Schumacher is 2nd, and his teammate Damon Hill leads on lap 30 as David Coulthard sets out on mission possible or impossible.
I don't know what he's thinking, but I'd be thinking, I really don't need this. I think I've had enough for one day.
So would I. Let's remind ourselves what's happened to him. Gigantic, he hit the wall just about where he was when I started talking there, and then went off the other side. That would upset anybody mentally. Then he restarted, tried to claw his way up from the back, only to have that fantastic crash with Michael Schumacher through, I firmly believe, absolutely no fault of his. He was doing what he'd been told to do by his pit management. It's a reflection on the appalling weather conditions. There will be people, of course, who are saying they should stop the race, but Formula One goes on unless conditions are absolutely impossible, and they are not impossible. Very difficult indeed. Yes, lap 30, lap 44 is the finishing lap. There's no question of the race running up to 2 hours, of course, and the poor bemused spectators there must be wondering what's going on around the track. So safety car still out. Damon Hill leads. Michael Schumacher showing every sign of being prepared to dive past. Alesi is 3rd, Frentzen is 4th, Deniz is 5th. Sorry, it's 5th.
Yeah,
and those are the runners.
Michael's long out of this race. Ralf Schumacher in the yellow Jordan there, having a nibble at Damon for no good reason really, because they're still very much under the yellows of the safety cars, you can clearly see.
Well, you can imagine that Eddie Jordan will have been saying, hold positions, and specifically, Ralph, stay where you are. But as you rightly point out, Martin, there is a bit of a legal wrangle going on between Jordan and Ralf Schumacher about whether Schumacher can, as we believe he wants to do, move to Williams next year. Jordan say he can't, and Ralf Schumacher says he can. And if Ralf Schumacher can see a chance of winning a race, he may say, never mind that, I'm going for it.
Well, Damon Hill's driven with total maturity all afternoon, and I don't see it stopping now. He knows how to win Grand Prix. He's won the World Championship. I just hope Ralph keeps his head. But a man who fancies his chances in there, I bet, is Jean Alesi in the blue Sauber in 3rd place. So the Jordans may well be watching each other, but they better keep an eye out for Alesi. And an outside bet on Frentzen, but he's been off the road a few times today, and I don't think he'll be quite as aggressive as Alesi. Louise is in the Jordan pit. What can he tell us?
Well, I can tell you, if anybody's enjoying this race, it's the Jordan team. And if you think Murray shouted louder when the Ferrari went into the back of the McLaren, you should have heard the cry that went up in the Jordan garage. This is a new situation for them. I mean, Hill's led races before. Jordan haven't, except very briefly, and that was here at Spa a few years ago. Rubens Barrichello qualified on pole, but he lost that lead within a couple of 100 yards of the start. Well, they're P1 and P2 at the moment, and I can tell you that they will be told to keep those positions. Ralf Schumacher won't be allowed to overtake Damon Hill.
Thank you, Louise. You've answered the question I was going to ask you to ask them. The question is he going to obey the instructions he's been given? For what it's worth, I think he will. So we're on lap 31. We've still got a long way to go. It may well be that not everybody who could score a World Championship point in this race will do so. So, well, I'm sorry, I'm talking nonsense. Everybody who finishes is going to score a World Championship point at the moment. There are only 6 contestants. You see them all down there now. Somehow Jarno Trulli has got ahead of Pedro Diniz and is now in 5th position on the road. So the order with the safety car still out, Damon Hill, and the Belgian Grand Prix is effectively restarting for a second time. It started once and then was stopped after the multiple collision. Then it restarted. Now effectively it's going to be restarting with only 4 seconds or so covering the top 6, indeed the only 6. Now, is
safety car still on track, so he hasn't gone down the pit lane. There's no way into the pits from the exit of the bus stop, so we've got at least another lap behind the safety car.
Not altogether sure in my mind, Martin, so much has been going on. What the determining factor is now. Can you remember what they're trying to get rid of? Fisichella's car looked to me as though it had been recovered.
Yes, it did, didn't it? I think
they'll
be cleaning up after. There would be an awful lot of debris from.
There's Coulthard.
Coulthard at the back of the queue, but he can overtake a lot of them if he likes. He's actually 6 laps behind, so he needs to. Coulthard's got to hope one of them falls off the road.
Exactly. If anybody retires in front of David Coulthard, notwithstanding the fact that he is now 5 laps behind race leader Damon Hill and 4 laps behind the 6th place man Jarno Trulli, if any of those 6 fall out and David Coulthard finishes, he will automatically score a World Championship point, which is exactly what he's after. Alesi having a look alongside Ralf Schumacher there. He must not pass under the safety car.
One thing's for sure, whatever happens from now on in this motor race is going to be talked about in Formula One circles and with Formula One fans for many years to come.
Of course, it could well have decided the World Championship of 1998. There's 7 points in it between Hakkinen, who's still leading, and Schumacher is still second. And whatever the number of points is, I'm not very good at working out the number of points that are available at the present moment. But the positions can still change, but Mika Hakkinen is going to go to Italy very strong. Ferrari are not as optimistic about Monza as McLaren are. The Nürburgring, where the Luxembourg Grand Prix is being held, should suit both Ferrari and McLaren well. And it's starting to look as though the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka, which doesn't happen until November the 1st, may well decide the championship.
And that's Nakano rejoining the track. The safety car is in at the end of this lap. The safety car is in and the race will be on again.
And this lap is the 32nd lap, 12 laps to go at the end of this one.
I say the race will be on. I mean, the high-speed race, each time they lap, of course, it counts. So this is effectively part of the Grand Prix, as you see it behind the safety car. But at the end of this lap, the safety car will go straight on at the bus stop, and then Damon will probably try and control Ralph a little bit, back him up, take a run at it, and have himself a nice clear space to break when he wants to into La Source hairpin. Hopefully he knows and thinks that Ralph will not give him any problems at all. And they've got to keep an eye on Lacey.
Yeah, I'm not going to make any rash predictions. I've done that before to people's disadvantage. But if Ralph Schumacher does what he's been told to do, and Damon can finish this race, then he's in a strong position, is all I'm prepared to say at the present moment. And Lacey, of course, is going to be fighting very hard indeed to get to second position in this race, where he was second for a long time in the Belgian Grand Prix last year. The safety car is off. The race is on. Damon comes out of the bus stop, gives it all the throttle he can afford to. Now, what's Ralph Schumacher going to do? Down from La Source to Eau Rouge, a gigantic ball of spray, and Schumacher is certainly not deferring as they go out of La Source, and Damon runs wide. Schumacher tucks in behind him. Frenson is right up behind Jean Lacey. Fifth and sixth are Deniz and Trulli have regained the positions they should have been in.
It'll be a little bit tippy-toe this first lap or two while they heat up the tyres, get the brakes up to temperature, find out where the new grip level is. The rain has eased off really in this last 5 minutes, but without the cars rushing around and lifting the water off, there could ironically be a touch more standing water. But Damon looking calm and collected, Lacey slightly menacing.
Yeah, this is where experience should pay. It's Damon's 97th Grand Prix. It's Ralph Schumacher's 30th Grand Prix. And Damon has got a very cool, mature, experienced head on his shoulders. And we know from the past that Ralph Schumacher is inclined to be wild. He's settled down a lot lately, but who knows? And who knows what's going to happen here? Because Heinz-Harald Frentzen can see a podium position in the offing if he can get past the Sauber of Lacey. But remember what's happened when Coulthard and Schumacher were in the positions that they were in. It's a very different situation now, though.
I didn't understand. Oh, the Williams getting well out of shape in form there. I didn't understand the significance initially of Nakano rejoining the track. We saw him under the safety car. He's the guy that Fisichella has smashed into the back of. And also, just in front of him is Coulthard, who, of course, Michael Schumacher smashed into the back of. So clearly, the back end of the cars are somewhat stronger than the front.
Well, I can tell you what's happened. I'm sure I know what's happened in the Minardi pit. They've said, as McLaren have said, if somebody drops out, if two people drop out, in Minardi's case, we could have a World Championship point. And if Minardi get a World Championship point, it would be for them like winning the World Championship. It's a team, a little team in Faenza in Italy, and my goodness, do they try, and are they nice people, and have they got a small budget compared with the big teams. But if they could get a World Championship point here in Belgium, it would be a magnificent and very well-deserved achievement. But we're now on lap 34, and Damon Hill is just easing away from Ralph Schumacher, who stays ahead of Jean Lacey, who stays ahead of fourth place Red Williams, Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Deniz is now 3 seconds back, with Trulli very close to him. But Trulli, of course, has been lapped in sixth position by Damon Hill and the others. Nakano is in 8th position. David Coulthard is in 7th place.
10 laps to go. I don't see any justification for shortening this and stopping it at the 75% distance. Not raining hard, no standing water, and only an accident, I think, would shorten this race in any way.
Very, very difficult decision, Martin, for a race director, and Charlie Whiting is a very mature, sensible, experienced chap to make. Enormous pressure on him, cars gone off, fortunately nobody seriously hurt, but if he decides to keep the race running, and it looks to me as though he's doing exactly that, I would certainly agree with his decision. And Damon Hill would certainly agree with it at the present moment. Look at him, he's just easing away from Ralph Schumacher, and people in the Jordan team have been saying the reaction of Damon Hill to the improved performance of the car has been magic. Yes, he's always tried, and Damon is a magnificent test driver. He's got 21 Grand Prix wins behind him. He's a past world champion, but nobody could avoid being a bit disheartened after the season he had with Arrows last year and the first half year he had with Jordan this year. And they've said, now that we've got the car into really good condition where it can challenge, Damon is a new man. He's bright, sparkling, and going for it as hard as he possibly can, with a chance of victory. Lap 34, 44 lap race. The gap now is 2.3 seconds, and Alesi is easing up slowly on Ralf Schumacher. Ralf Schumacher is doing what he was told to do, 10 out of 10 to him. Although, to be honest, unless he'd been able to get past at Lost Source, I don't think he would have been able to get past Damon anyway.
No, it doesn't seem to have quite enough pace, does he? And Damon looking very much under control. Alesi's mechanics there, looking slightly concerned about something. No reason to be at the moment that I can see. Alesi's pace is roughly the same as Ralf Schumacher's, just ahead of him in second place. Frentzen falling away quite quickly. Coulthard cruising round in seventh. No point in pushing too hard. He just got to hope somebody has a mechanical problem or spins off if he wants to bring home what would be a very bizarre World Championship point.
Yeah, I mean, I would say they're concerned about Alesi finishing on the podium, because they haven't done that this season. The highest finish that they've had this year was Jean Alesi in 5th position in Argentina, and the Sauber team is well down the pecking order in the World Championship. Now, we've got 3 teams who haven't scored at all: Prost, Stewart and Minardi. But Sauber are equal bottom with arrows at the present moment, equal 7th on 4 World Championship points. And if they can get the 4 World Championship points for Alesi finishing in 3rd place, it would move them into 6th position ahead of Stewart. But Jordan are on a potential 16 World Championship points, and that would put them only 4 behind Williams in 4th place.
Yes, if Damon Hill can win this race, I think I bet he'll say it's one of his most satisfying. Of course, all of his other races were won in a Williams that was very dominant, and it was easy for people to say, yeah, but would he win in anything else? And he is going to answer them beautifully with this drive here on a treacherous afternoon.
The round, smiling, bespectacled face there was Peter Sauber himself, the Swiss who moved into Formula One through sports car racing, first of all with Mercedes-Benz, and then first of all in his own name, and then with Mercedes-Benz. And he will be a very happy, if very worried man at the present moment. This is the end of lap 34 for Ralf Schumacher. Lap 35, my apologies, they're into lap 36. Ralf Schumacher and Alesi fighting for second place. There is the gap between Alesi third and Heinz-Harald Frentzen bumping his way over those sawtooth curves. He didn't want to do too much of that.
Yes, Frentzen well out of shape, and you saw the pieces of carbon fibre flicking off of his tyres.
And you also saw David Coulthard in the background as we leave for a few moments Spa-Francorchamps. It's still mighty close at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium. There is Damon Hill first, Ralf Schumacher second. The worried eyes of Eddie Jordan on the pit lane. Alesi is right up there with them in 3rd position in the Sauber. There he is. Sauber have not had a podium place this year. 4th is Frentzen, 7.6 seconds behind Alesi. Deniz is still on the same lap as the leaders. Trulli is 6th a lap down. David Coulthard and Nakano are 7th and 8th, way back, but hoping there'll be some retirement so that they can score points.
Yes, it's pretty much as I thought. Alesi is going to keep the pressure on the 2 Jordans. I think they're ultimately faster, but they just don't want to have to attack those braking areas and risk locking a wheel or snatching the rear wheels on the downshift. So Alesi, it really is a thorn in their side. A protege of Eddie Jordan's back in Formula 3000 days, but Eddie Jordan, I'm sure, wishes he'd evaporate right now so that they can bring those 2 yellow Jordans cruising to the end of this race. But Alesi just won't let them.
Right, 18 cars restarted the race. Fisichella out after a terrific crash with Nakano. Schumacher, Michael, out with after a terrific crash with Coulthard, which lost him the World Championship lead. Eddie Irvine out, Tuero out, Villeneuve out. So is Takagi and Verstappen and Wurz. Mika Häkkinen, of course. Johnny Herbert, and 4 people failed to restart the race. Rubens Barrichello, Olivier Panis, Vic Asalo, Ricardo Rossi. Damon Hill leads. There is Schumacher. Wait for it. And there would have been Jean Alesi, but now here he is, coming up the climb to Les Combes.
It was a very slow lap from Damon, the one before. He's moving over whenever he gets chance to try to get onto the wetter part of the track, as is Ralph. Is sort of suggesting that the tyres are getting plenty warm enough and the cars are squirming around a little bit. And Jean Alesi's been the quickest of the three of them on the last 3 laps. So Alesi applying the pressure.
Now, the tyre war I always talk about. Jordan used Goodyear, Sauber used Goodyear, Frentzen, who is fourth, is in a Williams that uses Goodyear, Deniz is in the Arrows, 5th position, Bridgestone, Trulli is in the Prost, 6th position, Bridgestone.
And look how much closer Ralph is now to Damon.
Yeah, and now, so, I mean, there's going to come a point if Damon is having to slow and Ralf Schumacher doesn't want to, where Ralph has got to take the decision either to go by and break team orders or to let Alesi catch both of them. This is getting very fraught indeed for Damon Hill on lap 38 out of 44. Mike Gascoigne on the left on the Jordan pit lane position. But the important thing is, what's the gap between Schumacher as Ron Dennis talks to Eddie Jordan? I don't know what that would be about, something to do with David Coulthard, no doubt. And you can see how Jean Alesi is continuing to push. Now, the gap at the end of the previous lap between Damon Hill leading and Jean Alesi, who's really flying in 3rd position, was 3.1 seconds. It's less than that now.
Yes, Ralph was a full second faster than Damon in the midsection of that race. Damon, I don't think, is so happy with those wet tyres he's got on at the moment. And Ralph's having to push because Alesi's bearing down on him. Coming over the line, 2:14.6 for Damon, 14.2 for Ralph, 13.7 for Alesi. It's not over yet.
No, indeed, it is not. Lap 39. Look how close it is. 1st, 2nd and 3rd, all in the same picture. After a quite incredible Belgian Grand Prix, and there's more to be told. Damon holds the lead. Ralf Schumacher holding an excellent 2nd place. The veteran Jean Alesi pushing them hard. They're pulling way away, of course, from Frentzen, who is 4th. Deniz, who is 5th. Trulli, who is 6th. Up to Les Combes. Now, this is where they can cause trouble.
Yeah, this is interesting. Coulthard was 4 seconds quicker than the leaders on that lap. So quite clearly, his Bridgestones are quite happy with these conditions. That means the conditions are changing. And I think these three are struggling with those softer wets, getting a little bit too hot. But Damon's had a good first section. It's Ralph that struggled this time.
Yeah, I can tell you, Louise Goodman has been down to the Jordan pit and they say there is no problem with either car. And there's certainly no problem with either driver, in which case you've got to take your hat off to Jean Alesi and Sauber. He's giving them both a very hard time, because if there's no problem with either Jordan, then it means that both Damon Hill and Ralf Schumacher are trying as hard as they possibly can. And we're still on lap 39. And remember what's happened before when drivers behind have pushed the driver in front. If you put a wheel wrong anywhere in here, if you put a wheel on a white line, if you put a wheel on a curb, you can spin off, they hold the moisture. Heaven knows there's enough of it on the track, and your history. There's the man, Jean Alesi.
It looks a bit more even, Stevens, on this lap. But, I think there's no doubt that those softer tyres are giving them a hard time. But Damon, it must be so difficult for him. He must be tiptoeing in. He's got everything to lose, and he's the first one in there. They can use him as a target. If he breaks at a certain place, Ralph can break just that little bit later. When you're the front man, you've got to choose where the grip is. And as I said earlier, it changes every lap. It started raining again. That actually may help them out this time.
Yeah, I must say, my heart, I'm thinking now of Damon Hill in Hungary in the Arrows last year, when against all expectations, against the wildest expectations, he passed Michael Schumacher's Ferrari and took the lead and commanded the race until the very last lap, when he had a hydraulic throttle problem and had to slow down and let Villeneuve through. Hello, replay of Frentzen. And off. Is he going off? No.
I think he
just catches it. And that is where I think Michael Schumacher went off in the Benetton to lose the Belgian Grand Prix by being disqualified in 1994.
Yes, the last lap was the first lap that the Jordans have actually been a fraction, a tenth up on Alesi, so maybe he's got nothing left.
Lap 40, 4 laps to go after this one. The gap between Alesi and Hill, third and first, is 2.2 seconds. Michael Schumacher driving in his team leader's wheel tracks. These are the only 3 men in the race from the point of view of victory, because Heinz-Harald Frentzen is a long way back in 4th position. And of course, unless there is a problem for the others, Pedro Diniz is still going to be in 5th position, Trulli in 6th place, and David Coulthard, despite his bravery in rejoining the race after 2 very unpleasant experiences, would be pointless, as would be Nakano.
Actually, Coulthard's cruising up behind this leading trio, so Coulthard just in the background and lapping quite a bit faster, in fact.
Yes, 2 seconds faster than Damon Hill. 2:11.7 for Coulthard, 2:13.7 for Damon Hill. But what's going to happen? Well, this is lap 40. 4.3 mile laps left at the end of this. 16, 17 miles between potentially Damon Hill and his first Grand Prix victory since leaving the Williams team in 1996 when he won the World Championship. And what a wonderful fillip, not just for Damon, for Britain, but for Jordan and for Mugen and for Goodyear, that would be.
Damon 6/10 faster than Alesi on that lap. There's Coulthard in the background, pretty much out of play after that pit stop to replace the rear wing. But Alesi can't now respond. Now the track's getting a little bit damper with this extra rain. I think it's helping the Jordans slightly, and they're easing away from John Alesi.
We don't know what tyres Coulthard's on, but they're obviously the right one. What would you expect him to do, Martin? I mean, he must know, he will know that he's all these laps behind them. There's no point in trying to force past them.
No, but we did see Ron Dennis talking to Eddie Jordan, although I can't begin to wonder why, really. I can't see any axe to grind anywhere there. So made just a courtesy call there from Ron, I assume. But I don't think David will want to get involved in this little battle.
Well, I am so cautious about saying anything about Damon Hill that I hardly dare say anything at all, except to remind you that he was a wonderful world champion in 1996, that he's the son of the great double world champion Graham Hill, the only father and son to both win the world championship. That Damon has won 21 Grand Prix already in his career. He's had an enormous number of second places, third places, world championship points, in fact 236 of them. But as Martin said earlier on, if, and I'm not saying he's going to in case he doesn't, Damon Hill wins this race, it would surely be the sweetest of all his victories, because when he was driving for Williams, he was certainly in a car which at minimum was as good as anything else, and in most cases better. But that hasn't been the case until today of Damon Hill and Jordan in partnership.
Yes, Ralph has lost a half second in the downhill midsection of this lap. That's put Alesi a little bit closer and allowed Damon a bit more of a breathing space of just over a second and a half. Dinit's back in 5th place. We haven't seen much of him through the afternoon, but he's kept his head down, and that'll be 2 well-deserved points if he can coax that through another 3 laps of this circuit.
3 laps remaining, says the caption, and if you haven't got your heart in your mouth, you jolly well should have. Lap 42, lap 43, lap 44. They're on lap 42 now, and you don't need me again to tell you the order. You can see what it is. You can see that nothing is changing. You can see too that David Coulthard in the background in the silver and black McLaren Mercedes is holding station in the hope that something is going to happen to one of the 6 cars ahead of him, which would enable him to get a World Championship point. And of course, on a very different part of the track to Coulthard, there are Frentzen, Diniz and Trulli, who are in 4th, 5th and 6th places. But these are the top 3. And that is the 3rd man, Alesi. There is Coulthard in his wheel tracks. That's out of Rivage into the left-hander on the approach to the massively fast Pouhon corner. 150 miles an hour.
Alesi's slowing. Alesi must have made some kind of mistake, because Lacey's dropped behind Coulthard and had a very bad midsection somewhere. Maybe we'll see a replay, maybe a blocked a wheel or something. But Lacey now falling back and taking the pressure off the two Jordans.
And is it again for the second year in succession going to be a cruel denial of a podium place for Jean Alesi, who was in second place to Michael Schumacher for most of the Belgian Grand Prix here at Spa last year? Well, he's still in third place. Coulthard's gone past him, but it hasn't affected the top three.
I think it'll just be a slight mistake there from Alesi. Ron Dennis already congratulating Eddie. I think that's probably a touch early, but I don't think we're very far away from some Irish tears.
No, I mean, no one would understand Eddie Jordan's position better than Ron Dennis. McLaren had a very difficult time in 1995, 96, and to some extent 97 after Ayrton Senna had left them, and they had the Peugeot engine and one or two other problems, and they've got back on top now. Jordan have never been on top. Jordan have never won a Grand Prix. They've been in every race with two drivers since 1991, and some jolly good drivers too. They've fought their way up with virtually no money to excellent funding now, and thank heavens Damon Hill gets past Jarno Trulli there safely again to lap the Italian, who is in sixth position and has been lapped twice, and Ralf Schumacher's done the same thing, and look at Jean Alesi.
No, it's not Jean Alesi, it's truly his engine sounding a bit sick, I have to say, when he came past the pits last time round, but truly cruising home to collect that last point at the moment.
Yeah, Alesi is actually 4 seconds behind Ralf Schumacher. Well, this is lap 43. There is only one lap to go after this. Look at the Jordan team. They're immobile. They cannot believe that this is happening to them. After years and years and years of striving just to get a point, never mind 2 top places on the podium, could it all be coming true for the Silverstone team? Their headquarters, their factory is just across the road from the BRDC-owned Silverstone, where the British Grand Prix is held, and Ralf Schumacher holds position. Michael is out. Ralf is very much still there.
Yes, it won't be Mugen Honda's first win, of course. They won with Panis in Monaco, didn't they, back in 95? But certainly it'll be Jordan's first win.
And of course it won't do Eddie Jordan's team any harm at all in a situation where Honda are known to be coming back into Grand Prix racing very soon, maybe even next year, but in circumstances we're not sure about. It's been alleged that they tried to buy the Jordan team and were turned down, but there's nothing that Eddie Jordan would like more than to be starting 1999 with a pucker works free Honda engine. Now, is he going to do it? Damon Hill crosses the line for the 43rd time to start lap 44 of a potentially historical Belgian Grand Prix, followed by Ralf Schumacher, past the scene of the enormous crash out into Eau Rouge, climbing out of Eau Rouge, which has taken so many people in the past, Zanardi in the Lotus, Villeneuve on Friday, Salo on Saturday. This is where Schumacher and Damon Hill had their wheel banging incident, Les Combes in 1994. Damon Hill turns into the right, turns into the left. The next corner is Malmedy, the right-hander. He's coming up towards Rivage at 160 miles an hour. He's coming down to the right-hander here, slows down to 65 miles an hour. He is 1/3 of the way round his last lap. He is in the lead. He is followed by Ralf Schumacher. Jordan lead. Jordan second. Mugen Honda engine first. Mugen Honda engine second. Goodyear tyres first, second, third, fourth with Frentzen. And Bridgestone are fifth and sixth with Deniz and Trulli. What a race.
Oh, and is it going to be well deserved? Damon really kept his head, made a perfect second start. The restart really played into his hands, got onto those, remember he got onto those intermediate tyres. The Jordan team coming to the pit wall, they're really going to enjoy this one. Jordan know how to party at the best of times, and tonight is going to be something absolutely incredible. Damon has driven a faultless race. He had to let Schumacher go in the early part. but he hasn't made any mistakes, and he's coming through to what I think is one of his best ever wins.
Get ready in Britain and Ireland, all round the world, to stand up and cheer as Damon Hill comes home within sight of victory at the Belgian Grand Prix. His 22nd victory into the bus stop. He is yards away from the finish, followed by his teammate Ralf Schumacher. And Damon Hill wins in Belgium. Fantastic! Schumacher second, and Lacey third. Well, what an unbelievable race. And Eddie Jordan at last, after all his efforts, after fighting his way up through Formula Ford, Formula 3, and even getting a Formula 1 drive himself, founding his own team, sees victory and is now very much one of the top five. The top five with Ferrari, McLaren, Benetton and Williams. A proud and very happy day for Jordan, for Damon Hill, for Ralf Schumacher and for the whole team. And let us not forget Gary Anderson, who's made such a tremendous contribution. As we leave for a brief break, we'll be back for the podium. Look at... Scenes of unrestrained jubilation in Belgium after Damon Hill and Jordan together achieved their first victory. Damon's 22nd, Jordan's first. And just to make it the happiest of days possible for Eddie Jordan's team, Ralf Schumacher finishes in second place. A massive 16 World Championship points for the team that had not scored a single World Championship point in the first 8 races of 1998. And those points lift them to within 4 points of Williams in 4th place in the Constructors' World Championship. Just for the record, the finishing order, and only 8 cars out of the 18 that restarted and the 22 that originally started finished the Belgian Grand Prix. Victory for Damon Hill by 9/10 of a second from his teammate Ralf Schumacher. By 7.2 seconds ahead of third place man Jean Alesi. Heinz-Harald Frentzen 4th, Deniz 5th and on the same lap. Jarno Trulli finished 2 laps down but in 6th place to give Prost their first World Championship point of the season. David Coulthard was 7th, 5 laps down, no points. Nakano was 8th, 5 laps down, no points. Well, what do you think, Martin? And it's incredible, isn't it?
I think we missed our bus home. That's a long race, Murray, wasn't it? But I mean, just incredible. Thank goodness nobody's been injured. It's been exciting. It's been Grand Prix racing at its best. There's Eddie, look, jumping around. And Eddie Jordan absolutely beside himself. Damon Hill is inside that minibus. They'll be moved from there down to the podium procedure, which is halfway down the hill in the old pit, overlooking into the grandstands down there. It's a strange setup here at Spa with regard to that. And the cars will go to Parc Fermé to be checked over for legality and weight, dimensions and everything. But we're waiting now for the 3 drivers to climb the steps up there now. You can see them, and they'll come out onto that balcony, and that will be a great moment for Damon Hill.
Well, very quickly, McLaren are looking very strong for the Constructors' Championship. Damon Hill mounts the steps, and what a smile of delight there's going to be on his face when he gets up there alongside Ralf Schumacher and Jean Alesi. Jordan first and second, Sauber third. Congratulations to Sauber, and congratulations Damon Hill, winner of the Belgian Grand Prix of 1998. Yes! Ralf Schumacher not looking exactly overwhelmed, unlike his brother when he wins, but what a joy day for Damon.
Yes, Damon's got a piece of tape that holds his earplugs in. I hope somebody politely tells him to take that out, otherwise he'll wish he had when he sees the pictures.
National anthem for the winner. I think not a repeat for the Jordan Constructors victory, because, like Damon Hill, they come from Britain. And Damon has got a big trophy cabinet already, full of some wonderful trophies, but none has been more richly deserved and more fiercely fought for than his victory in Belgium today. It's put him back where he ought to be, where he deserves to be, on top, on the very pinnacle.
Yes, the last time he was up there, of course, he took the World Championship in '96, but that's Eddie Jordan, of course, accepting the Constructors' first place trophy.
Now, Ralf Schumacher's looking pretty fed up. I've got a feeling that he thinks he could have and should have won this race. I may be putting thoughts into his head, but he certainly doesn't look like a man who's finished higher than he's ever finished before. The best he's finished before was third place.
Yes, Lacey there. That's a good run from John today, and he knows it, look. But yes, I think Ralph may feel his first win got away from him there, but I really think Damon had him covered personally.
Yeah. Eddie doesn't mind, and Damon is delighted, and so will Britain be after a quite incredible, truly magnificent Belgian Grand Prix, which saw Damon Hill back at the top.
Well done, Murray. Thanks, Martin. The first of a lot of champagne for that Jordan team here in Belgium. And highlights tonight. We'll hear from Damon, of course, the views of Coulthard and Michael Schumacher too. So much for us to discuss. 10:45 tonight. What a great day for Damon Hill and that Jordan team. Undoubtedly their finest hour. Great day for Britain, great day for Damon. Hope you've enjoyed it. Bye-bye.